I remember that Neil was studying for his bachelor's of science degree in exercise science, and one of the things that they would do in some of his classes was they give him case studies, right? Similarly, so I'm going to provide you guys with some background on two individuals that I've created, and I want you guys to give me a program. The goal here for both of them is to gain muscle without gaining fat. Let's start with the first individual. Devin Williams, 29-year-old male that weighs 150 pounds at the height of 6'1". He works a desk job from Monday to Friday. He loves rock climbing and wants to gain 20 pounds of muscle. So that would mean that he's aiming for 170 pounds. A little background on Devin. He used to play baseball in high school. He once completed a Spartan race, so he's not completely out of shape. He's in some shape. In the last 6 months, he's tried taking walks with his dog as a means of being more active because he works from home. Prior injuries, he's had a prior meniscal tear, which, just to put that into layman's terms, it means that he has some issues with his knee. And why does he want to gain the 20 pounds? Well, he wants to be healthy for his new family. He's got a partner, he's got a dog, and he's got two newborn twins.
Oh, cute.
So, Dan, let's start with you. What program would you suggest that Devin Williams follow if he wants to gain 20 pounds of muscle?
Probably one given by the district training facility would be number one.
Customizable. That's what we do here. No,
but on a serious note, so we're getting a little more specific. I think some sort of resistance training, and then also like sprinkling a little bit of cardio in as well, just for overall health, and then vascularity as well. Cardiovascular health. There we go. But so when I was designing this program, just assuming like some other factors, how many days a week you want to train, I was thinking something along the lines of a push, pull, and a full body day. So when I say push, a full body push, so some sort of lower body squat, some sort of single leg motion, so like a Bulgarian split squat, lunge, depending on how the meniscus is feeling. And then some sort of upper body push, a vertical and horizontal. So just relatively keeping it simple, like it could be a dumbbell press, overhead press, push up, anything like that, especially since he hasn't been exercising in the last about 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Reason that I say 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 times a week makes sense, just because this guy hasn't been working out in about 6 months. So we don't want to just toss him into something too aggressive right away. I'm sure he says, hey, I want to work out 4 to 5 days a week because I want to gain about 20 pounds of muscle. But we throw him from 0 to 60, he's probably going to burn out or get injured. So 2 to 3 times a week, I feel like 1 day a week is going to yield some sort of benefit, but more likely than not, if he's looking to gain 20 pounds, he's probably not going to see the stimulus that he's looking for.
Yeah, and I think what makes sense about that too is you don't necessarily need a lot when you are new to the lifting scene. Just a small
fucking newbie gains, man.
The newbie gains, yeah. Small amount of stimulus will reap big results. Nutrition wise, do you have anything to say to that?
No.
Okay.
Just kidding, I do. When it comes towards like nutrition, we want to think about like if he's looking, I guess like one big thing that I always like to talk to people whenever they're saying, hey, I don't want to gain any fats. Fat's not necessarily one a bad thing. And then two, if you're getting a little bit of additional body fat while you're bulking, it's almost going to happen depending on the rate that you're looking to go down. Just because, somebody says, hey, I want to gain 20 pounds of muscle, but they're not willing to gain any fats, it's an easy way to kind of get a little discouraged if you're not seeing the weight that you're putting on as quickly as you'd like. So I think it's also important for him to kind of get a clear understanding of, all right, what do you want to actually look like? Do you have maybe a physique that you're looking to get towards? Because like their body fat percentage may be a little bit lower than, what that ideal body fat percentage actually looks like. Being 6'1", 150, he's probably pretty fucking lean. Like that's pretty skinny right there. Mm-hmm. So like one, getting an idea of that, but then if he's really dead set on, hey, I don't want to gain any additional body fat or as minimal as possible, giving him the time frame of like, hey, like how much body weight do you want to put on? Are you willing to sacrifice body fat, and then timetable? Realistically, most research shows like 0.5 pound to 2 pounds per month is realistic for muscle gain without body fat being put on. So like at least the first like few months, I'll probably be on like closer to that 2 end.
Okay.
Since like we said, like the stimulus is kind of low, but for him, aiming to have like 150 to 170 grams of protein, and then aiming for around, I think I had 2,000 to 2,300 calories.
Okay. Any special way that you came up with those calorie amounts or protein amounts?
Just put them in macro calculators. But the reason I say between those ranges, and usually what I do with most clients to start off is, one, get a food log to kind of get a general baseline of where they're eating. If they start logging their food, and obviously there's going to be some sort of variation to it, it gives us a kind of idea of, all right, so this is how much they're eating, this is how much they're gaining or losing, this is where their general maintenance is at. The calories that I chose were from just a calculator.
Okay. Makes sense.
I think I got it from Precision Nutrition.
Okay. Scotty, what say
boy.
you? Again, just to repeat because we had a little introduction, long answers. He's 29 years old, 6'1", 150 pounds, works desk job Monday through Friday, loves rock climbing, wants to gain 20 pounds of muscle.
So I did not do a program for him because if you're good at something, never give it out for free. Okay, so here's my program.
Damn. So wait, does that mean you're bad at this? Gotta shot yourself in the foot there.
I'll send you the invoice. No, so Dan had a lot of really good answers too, and everything that I was about to say next, he just nailed it. So I also work with a lot of clients who we would consider these level 1 nutrition clients. So a lot of them aren't doing very specific calorie macro. They're not weighing their meals every single time. They're kind of focusing on different habits. But to start from the training side of things, obviously when you have this goal, there are two main sides, or three. You could say training, nutrition, at least, or training, nutrition, and recovery. From the training side of it, definitely agree with Dan. 2 to 3 days a week. If you're going one time a week, you're kind of just churning your wheels. You're feeling like you're doing something, but you're not really getting a high enough training stimulus. The way I like to describe it to clients or paint that picture is if you wrote down everything you did in a given day, and that has to do with every piece of food you shove in your mouth, every weight you lift, every activity you do. If nobody has seen you, but they just read that description, they should be able to draw what you look like or have a pretty good picture. So if you're that guy who's going to fast food every single night, you're writing that down, you're saying, I'm binge watching entire episodes or seasons on Netflix, and I'm just ordering out, you can draw a pretty obese person. But if you describe everything you do, and it's more leading towards something that looks like a bodybuilder or somebody who actually has some semblance of fitness level, those are habits that are going to lead more to your results. So for this guy, if he's got a Monday through Friday desk job, likes rock climbing, so maybe he's moderately active, maybe on the weekends, but he doesn't do any weight training, introducing that 2 to 3 times a week in the gym to get some training stimulus on his muscle is going to be beneficial. I think maybe there's a ramping period with this guy, so I would probably start with 2 times a week, more or less a full body type routine to make sure you're hitting every movement pattern and at least introducing his body to those movement patterns. Usually starting with the bigger exercises first, the bang for your buck exercises. So if there's somebody who has a big training background, maybe they've done Olympic lifts, those I like first. This guy, probably not so much. I would probably start with your bigger lifts, your bench, deadlift, squat, maybe some big single leg lifts or single split stance lifts as well. Progressing towards your upper body push-pull, progressing towards your core, and maybe a little bit of cardio at the end since he doesn't want to gain a lot of muscle. I would probably say that the faster he wants to gain that muscle, the more he has to be willing to put on a little bit of body fat. Especially Dan mentioned he's 6'1", 150. I graduated high school at maybe 5'10 and a half. At around 150, 155, and I was running track every single day, and I was shorter than this guy and also had very little body fat. So he's probably not got a lot of body fat to begin with. He might be somebody who we would consider this ectomorphic type style. I don't try to somatotype people as much anymore, but I do look at people with that body type, and they tend to respond well to almost forcing them to be in a calorie surplus. They need to almost find strategic ways to guarantee that they're in a surplus. Otherwise, they might eat a little bit, gain a little bit. And these are the people who might gain 5 pounds, and then all of a sudden they find a way to lose 10 pounds really quick because they tend to have these active lifestyles or very fidgety personalities. They have certain habits where maybe they binge eat and then they don't eat for extended periods of time. So I would look at that. I like what Dan said too, is to get that true snapshot. I want to see this guy maybe write down or food log, use something like a MyFitnessPal to journal what he's doing at least minimum for 3 days to get a decent understanding of what he's doing Monday through Friday. If he's working at a desk job, I want to understand what foods are available to him, what things are challenging for him. Maybe it's he's always on the go. Maybe it's the snack room or lunchroom always has bad food in it. Maybe we need to get him something he could have at his desk. So we want to understand that before we can really develop his nutrition plan. But we also want we want to work him from wherever he's at right now to a balanced, proportionate plan that has a good amount of lean protein, has some good quality carbs, and maybe slowly over the course of time starting to increase those carb portions, making sure that he's got enough protein that we talked about in that previous episode where most of us kind of recommended that 1 gram per pound. If we're talking about his prior meniscal tear, I was talking about those big lifts before. So with meniscal tears, the meniscus is really just the cushion between the knee. So it's like a shock absorber that gives us a little bit of extra support. A lot of people over time do either wear that out a little bit or they get a tear. If you get a tear and you get it cleaned out, that's a meniscectomy. You have a little bit less shock absorption in there, and you're usually going to be a little more predisposed to arthritis later on in life. So if he's already experiencing symptoms, we want to make sure maybe that's low impact. And maybe if it's a posterior meniscus tear towards the back of his knee, we want to avoid some deep squatting because that's where you put some pressure on that. If we're talking cardio during his program, we want low impact considerations because if he's squatting and then I'm throwing him on a treadmill or telling him to run around his town, that's probably going to beat up the knee a little bit, and this guy's not going to last through the entire program. If we're looking for healthy weight gain, we generally say, and the research has shown it's within that 1 to 2 pounds per week that you could gain. But again, if their goal is now, I want to gain that 20 pounds of muscle without putting on body fat, again, that's going to narrow that down. You're going to put on a little bit less each week, but it's going to be a little more fine-tuned, and we might have to spread out that goal over the course of time.
I just wanted to jump in. I like what you did there. One of the things that I noticed that you did wasn't necessarily you just kind of give them a program and you tell them to go run with it. You analyze his personal traits as it pertains to his physical traits. You know, you describe this individual, even though you don't know this individual, he's completely made up. Based off of his physique, you probably assume that he is naturally he's just lean, fidgety. You mentioned he was fidgety individual, and he would kind of be wishy-washy with his food, or should I say with his nutrition. He wouldn't really be consistent in that he will binge eat for a period of time and then probably not eat for another period of time. And I think that's so interesting because you basically describe the type of person I am. If I do not stay committed to a regimen or a program, I get very small, I get very lean, I get very tiny. As you can see, we're all long. I'm pointing to my brother. We're all long, right, we're all lanky, and he's fidgety. Exactly. And if he doesn't eat,
Eric's leg is literally shaking.
Yeah, Eric's leg is literally shaking. This is what we all do, you know. And if he doesn't eat, and I'm pointing to my brother, Eric, our producer, you probably lose weight very quickly, right? You got to put your mouth closer to the mic. Yeah, you. So, you know, it's very interesting that you were able to make these. You were able to hone in into these assumptions very easily, very quickly, and then you talked about how changing the lifestyle, not necessarily just changing the choices, but also envisioning that future of, hey, I'm a bodybuilder now, even though they're not a bodybuilder. But it's not necessarily for the sake of taking things to the extreme of being a bodybuilder, but taking things to some level that brings them closer to being more conscious of their weight.